up like this.
We actually, when we first put a toller in the showroom, we had one judge no award because it carried its tail up.
Yeah, we've had that happen here too, Denise. Anyway, we'll get on to coat and color. Thick, thick. Thickness is the operative word here, not length. The coat must be thick. If it's too thick and too long, then that's a hindrance in the water. But it's the thickness that's the most important. Thick double coat with a dense undercoat in season. I mean, there's going to be seasons when they've shed it out. But considering that these dogs were bred to retrieve out of the Bay of Fundy, which has some of the coldest water south of the Arctic, they were bred to retrieve from very cold water. I have a preference for vivid colors. I do not like to see tollers of kind of wishy-washy, washed-out colors. I want them nice, bright colors, whether it's red or orange or whatever, but good, strong colors. Like this dog. I like the analogy of coppery red. If you think of a brightly polished copper penny, lovely color for a toller. Actually, not quite as dark as this. And with the characteristic white markings.
Yes, design.
It's so easy to get the perfect weight.
There's no such thing as perfect weight. I take issue with you on that. Yeah. I really take issue with that. One of the things I have to keep, because I lecture to attorney judges and to judges, and one of the things I have to continually say to them is, if you read your standard, it's quite explicit. It tells you exactly what you need to know. And nowhere does it say a toller has to have white. And they nearly fall off their chairs.
It says usually some of the following white markings is what it's worded, how it's worded.
4 places. Now, of course, it looks attractive to have it here, there, and everywhere, where the 4 places. But when I'm judging tollers, being a toller specialist, it makes people say, oh, she's a specialist, so they go to watch to see what she does because they don't know how to judge the breed. I have to be very careful. When I go over for colour, I feel underneath and see just how much white is there under that dog. Because if you flip it over, and this is all white, and you've only got a red blanket over the top, you're in trouble with your breed. If you breed on with that, you're not going to have, you'll have quadruples, you won't have tollers. So it's important from a breeder's perspective to realise that while it is attractive, it's essentially a red dog with white markings. It should never be a dog which is in the balance. Because that gene is very...
I've never actually seen one with an overabundance of red over white. And with all due respect, I was mentored by a man who didn't show very much at all. He was a hunting dog. And he drilled into me the fact that these dogs had to have white because it made them visible to the birds.
Absolutely.
It's nothing to do with the show ring.
Yep.
What about the black that we're starting to see? I've seen a bit of it coming out.
Well, if it's just black at the tips, it's probably actually slightly brown.
You'll find that's probably, if you put it
Some kind of mutation.
It's usually a shaded red, which is mahogany red, which looks very dark and can look like black. But if you check it, 9 times out of 10 it's not black.
It would be sort of dark chocolate, yeah.
And it's quite acceptable as far as I'm concerned as a breeding dog, provided you check it and make damn sure it isn't a black marking.
But you also have to remember that the standard lists as a disqualification any colours other than red or orange.
That's right.
And a black or even a chocolate brown dog is not red.
Chocolate brown dog is a different colour gene entirely. It's actually a black gene. I'm not going to give you a lecture in genetics, but it's quite different from the gene which gives you the coppery red or orange, or the agouti, which is what gives you that shading on the tips. And I think all tollers have that shading in their coat.
Oh, they should have.
Some to a degree, to the extreme. Some.
But in breeding, if you start to see that black, would you run screaming from that?
I haven't seen black. I have seen very dark dogs, which when I take the hair and as they grow older, they're shaded.
Is this black in an adult or is it in a puppy?
It's staying.
Well, it's a year and a
like to see the dog before I can make a comment.
Yeah, because in about my third litter, I had puppies, and it looked like black on, and on the tips of, and I of course phoned up the woman who's stud dog eyed, and typical newcomer, and she said, "Don't worry, they'll be a nice dark red when they've grown up." And I thought, likely story, but it was so at the time they were adult, but they were always of the darker red, getting on for Irish setter red, which to me, I don't really want to see that mahogany color of the Irish.
How does that play out? I mean, if you bred to the male you bred to, was he fairly dark? And
No, he wasn't.
he wasn't.
He wasn't. And this is in early days, and there were far fewer dogs then, But I think you'd have to use common sense. Then I wouldn't be if that dog had everything else or a lot of the other things I wanted. But I would be very careful about the coloring and then the background in the pedigree of the dog that I chose to breed. Common sense is in short supply nowadays, but it's one of the most important things in dog breeding, is to not get bogged down in a welter of stuff over one thing in a dog.
And bearing in mind you have a very small gene pool, and if you start excluding things which are acceptable, I'm not saying anything that is like, what you're talking about to me sounds like a tricolour or an agouti with a black agouti overlay, and that's a quite different gene, and it shouldn't be there, and it shouldn't be perpetuated. That's throwing back to something way back in the old Newfoundland type dogs. But because it's a small gene pool, you really have to be aware that there are trade-offs. And it takes a lot of years of knowledge and a lot of study and understanding what it's all about.
Okay, we better move on here, Denise, because okay. Right, this was an outstanding puppy, but he had one great flaw. Can anybody see? Two. Can anybody see in this picture? For one thing, his eye, now he was a puppy here, but his eyes always did stay a bit too light. And he had a standoff coat, and he had that coat as a puppy, and he kept it as an adult. It didn't have an undercoat, it stood up. A Toller coat should be fairly flat-lying with the undercoat underneath. And that was, he did a lot of winning. He was as flashy as blazes and showed like a bomb. But he was never really correct in that way, in my opinion. And I bred him, so I can find fault with it.
What was the nose level like on that dog, the width of it? To me, in that photograph, it looks small for the head.
No, he was all right. No, okay. But to me, his head was never one of his most pleasing.
No, the eyes are a bit round.
Yeah. But he was extremely flashy, and he won a great deal.
Yes.
Now, who is this dog?
That's Ray.
Yep.
Is that one of your dogs? Beautiful movement, look at it. And Denise sent me this picture, and I said, this is what I need, because I wasn't happy with the movement picture I had in this.
I had an email from the lady who owns this dog. This dog, Sue.
It's a beautiful movement there, and she's
head
up carrying a bird.
And she finds car keys.
But you see how that front leg, how far out that front leg is coming before it's just about to hit the ground there, and how far back the hind leg, which hasn't quite even picked up yet. There's lots of reach and drive behind this dog. It's lovely movement. I adore this picture, and thank you so much for sending it. And I didn't know who the dog was. I don't care. She can look at her. She can do the job. That's a nice sized duck she's bringing in.
Yeah. The thing I love about this picture is look at her top line.
Yeah. Now I suspect it might be going a bit like this, but I mean it's
she's moving.
She's carrying a bird, and you see, if she didn't have that bird, her head would be further down. She wouldn't be. She's even possibly restricting her movement a little bit because he's got her head up carrying the bird, but it's lovely movement.
Yeah. There's two things that I'd like to point out. The extension of that upper arm relies on the length and lay of the shoulder. Now, if the shoulder is sloped like so, that angle is where the dog's foot will hit the ground. Yeah, that's the extension it can have. So the greater the length and layback, the greater the reach. The lift comes from the upper arm. That's what causes the dog to lift the foot, and this causes the dog to reach. The second
And of
thing
course
I'd
you're
like-
getting the propulsion from the rear
and
as
the
well,
second
a
thing you
strong
need
rear.
to- yeah. The second thing you need to look at is the placement of the back and front feet. You see where she's about to put her foot. She's not going to overreach that front foot. That front foot will come up and the back foot
Yeah.
will go in exactly
Yep.
the same place. She's perfectly balanced on the mirror. If that back foot was to extend forward, then her balance would be wrong, her angles wouldn't be matched.
I'm awestruck at the way this dog is moving here, carrying the bird. I mean, it's amazing. Anyway, that's, you know, you've got the animation there, you've got the excellent reach and drive, and that's a lovely illustration of good movement. Okay? Faults and disqualifications. Here's your chocolate brown. You see this
We've had a few
too?
of those. We've had
No,
two
these are
cats
dogs
and
in
they've got
Norway,
twins.
and they were dogs in Norway. I have no idea who they are. But I thought they were a good example of some rather weird colors. And here's 3 lovely dogs in Scandinavia. I have to tell you that I first prepared this PowerPoint thing for seminars in Scandinavia, which is why I have so many. Plus the fact that I'm a great admirer of what the Scandinavians have done with the Toller. So just 3 very nice, all different, but all of them nice dogs. Here's some more. These dogs are in Norway.
Could I just say, when you look at those, even though they're different, they are unmistakably Tollers.
Yes.
I don't suggest to you that
Yeah.
they're anything but a
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
And that, if you're in doubt, forget it.
Yeah. And that was just a picture of a Toller working, you know. That was before I got that movement one, because that did it. And this is just a fun one. This was in her day. She's since been surpassed, of course, but in the early days of Tollers in Sweden, this was, on the right, the top field bitch, and also a good brood bitch in Sweden. And that's a Swedish hunting horn hanging behind her. And this is a Canadian dog just holding a bird. You know, they're both good brood bitches. Both of them doing a job. And just a cute puppy picture. I couldn't resist it.
Do you see that look? That's the look that Marilyn and I, when we look at puppies and when we looked at Tollers, if it didn't have that look that by nature, it wasn't a Toller to us.
There's a little softness about a Toller mouth and a little bit of corner and it's just gives this soft kind of expression that's just, I mean, I love that. It's just a beautiful puppy picture. Okay? And this is just mother and daughter. And this is just one of my Norwegian friends. He fiddled around with my seminar and he stuck this picture in and put this thing on it, Fly Me to the Moon, but it's a nice picture with the ears. This is a Toller in Norway with the mountains behind him.
Now that dog could carry a heavy bird.
Yes.
Strong.
Mm-hmm. I just did it because it was a lovely picture. Okay? Just got, these are at the end, they're just, okay?
Oh.
And this is the end, this is the absolute. And that's ending it with a bang, and this is, we have to remember and emphasize, people, that this is our own Canadian Retriever. So let's hear it for the Duck Toller.
Well done, Alison. Lovely.
And you, thank you for your contribution. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. Attention, s'il vous plaît. Can we have a dog up here, please?
Anybody?
Yeah, you just pick a dog. These dogs have been offered to have Denise and I go over them, and some of them are ones that I have chosen because I wanted to illustrate certain points.
Can I make a comment about my dog?
Certainly.
She's lacking her crowning glory.
This bitch had puppies. How old are her puppies now?
16 weeks, I think.
Any of you who've bred a litter, you know what your bitch looks like when the puppies are 16 weeks old. But this is a nice...
Normally she does have it.
So this is just, a nice, strong bitch who's... How old is she now?
6.
She's 6 years old?
I know.
Wow!
Where did the time go, right?
She's senior citizen.
When did that happen, right?
Okay, set her up, will you?
Yeah.
And Denise, I think we'll have Denise go over here and tell us what she finds.
Okay, the first thing I want to say is that when a judge approaches the dog, we're approaching it from a positive point of view. We're looking at the merits of the dog. We're not there to pick faults.
We're also trying to look at the overall dog and not zero in on
So the assessment process starts with, first of all, looking, getting a picture, having in mind you've got a perfect picture in here, your ideal dog. You've learned it, you've read your standard. You look at this dog and you see, how does that fit my perfect picture? Just by observing, I should be able to, if I'm any sort of a judge, see a couple of things that I need to check, which I then do when I go over the dog. First thing, you always approach your dog with your hand underneath, none of this sort of thing, because sometimes the dogs lean back and it doesn't do them or you any good. So you approach them underneath, put your hands on the head to get a wedge shape, skull, under jaw, checking that lovely filled in under the eye, ears, they're set beautifully, they're just reaching the eye. You look curious, look at her eyes, beautiful expression. Teeth, very easy. You don't have to go reaching in and wrenching mouths. You can run your thumbs along like that, and you can feel every tooth in the head. And then from there, it's very easy to check the balance. You've got a head here, a neck there, and you should just be about balanced. From here you go down to at least the end of the rib cage, down to the fruit and the tail. In this case, the tail should be shorter than the hand from the fruit. If it was another breed, it'd be different. So I'm looking here at fruit bone, tail set. Very, very slightly sloping croup. She's just a tad overweight and had a puppy, so the top line's not a fortune at the moment.
Tad, see?
Okay, if I was standing over this bitch, I would then proceed down here. I would feel, as I said to you, the withers, my thumbs are on the withers. I can feel the points up here on the shoulders. Run your hand down, you feel the point there. Straight down that scapula, that gives you the length of that blade. You come back here, and that elbow from here, the humerus, which is your upper arm, next to the blade, is a beautiful angle, and it's almost equal. Can you see that? Slightly, but you don't expect them to be perfect. There is no such thing as a perfect angulated dog. I've never come across one. I mean, some people may say that.
She looks to lean, have you noticed?
Now, as I said, she's carrying a bit of weight, so she's tending to lean out like this a bit. The shoulders are placed well on the body because looking down here, she's true, front and rear. There's no narrowing here. She's not out at elbow. She's not tacked on in shoulder like a bulldog. That attachment is quite good. I would like to see this bitch's shoulder placement just a tad further back. But she has adequate fore chest, good depth of chest, lovely straight bone, tight feet, underline's good. Feeling around the musculature, once again, feel that lovely thick thigh. You come down here, lovely thick thigh. The length of this to that is beautiful. See that angle? You've got an angle here and an angle there. Same as that angle. That's balance. You've checked the rib cage, it comes to there, there's the loin. So all in all, she's a very nicely put together bitch. As I said, there's only one thing I would like to change, and I'm just a little bit further back facing on here, but a beautiful bitch nonetheless.
A naked mole rat.
Naked mole rat. Thanks, Laura.
Okay, Mia, that
Thank
was
you.
good, Denise. I'd like you to do that with the dogs, and then there's some of them I want to make a certain
you just-
point. But if you would like to go over each one of them like that, I think that's valuable. I have to stand somewhere near here because I've got the microphone.
Oh, okay.
Okay, can we have the next one up?
Table.
16, 17 months?
17 months.
17 months.
So who knows what she'll do up here. Stand. Stay.
They're talking about putting young stock up and not knowing what they're going to do. Don't fuss too much. If the dog's not wanting to stand still, Toller should stand still. Do I tell the judges that? Don't expect a statue in the lineup. It's not in the breed. So if the dog won't stand still, don't worry. Just move around, stand in front of your dog and hold the head. The judge can do the rest. If they're any sort of judge, they'll look at it. That's it, you see? She only needs to look at you. Beautiful expression. Just lovely. Lovely dark eyes. Now this is what I was saying about the ears. They're beautifully placed, very mobile, so they can look like they're laying back. But they're not. They're a lovely ear. It's a nice little triangular, good thick velvety ear, and it just reaches just past the eye. 17 months she's still to develop, so I would expect a little bit more strength of head to come along with the body bloating up. Depends on the bloodlines I've found with that. But
This is from a slow maturing.
yeah. Once again, same sort of thing. You check your balance, nice clean skull. And there's your 4 parts. 1, 2, 3, 4, and that sloping croup is short. Now here, our front assembly is not quite what I'd like to see. It's adequate, but I would like to see just a tad more angulation. She has a lovely forechest. She has adequate depth for her age. It's reaching just above the elbow. That will probably body up a little bit more as she gets older. Her rib cage comes to here. There's her loin. In keeping with the style of dog we're looking at, a longer, leaner type of Toller than say the short to leg to body proportion dog that is also my favourite. But nevertheless, it's a Toller, and it's typical of Tollers. I'd like a tad less loin in her, but she's a baby. She'll body up. I don't look at Tollers for maturity till they're at least 3.5 to 4 years. One thing about tails, we talked about the tail being the crowning glory. To me, you should be able to hold that tail and feel it like a brush, thick and dense.
I also have a thing about having a really thick root to the tail.
Yep, absolutely.
Because it acts as a rudder when they're swimming. So I want them to have what I call a nice fat tail at the top, at the root of the tail.
I didn't mention coat texture and colour before. This is a beautiful flat coat. It's got sufficient depth in it and you can't find the skin. The best place to look is here, near on the flank, and you can't find the skin there. That's a good dense coat. Even though she may not have a heavy undercoat at the moment, that just says that she's shedding. But you should be able to see that this is really dense. She's lovely. I'd put her up and show her.
Thank you.
Okay, go. Alison and Denise, what's your experience with these guys? Somebody said late maturing, and I agree, but what about size as you're watching them grow? What do you think you got to see?
Oh, it depends on the line so much.
Bloodlines, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so a year and a half?
Well, it used to be that with my sort of own line that I developed, line breeding on 2 dogs and different that I figured they'd mostly got their height by 9 or 10 months.
Yeah.
But as I introduced more Harbour Light stuff into I got a very much more dog that went on growing well over a year. And it just depends on the bloodlines.
But do you still think that what you see at 8 weeks in terms of the package is sort of what you see at 3 years?
Well, you hope so, but I mean, if that turned out every time, we'd all be able to have, you know, get champions by looking at our 6-week-old puppies, and it doesn't work that way.
There's so
You
many
make
factors too.
educated guesses.
There's environmental factors, health issues, and
Yeah.
all sorts of things come into play. I used to say that because our curlies were also a very late maturing breed, we would not expect a bitch to reach her full height before her second season. Most of them around 9 to 10 months, if they came into season at that age, that would sort of slow the growth period. Our first Toller bitch we brought in, she grew an inch in her 3rd year. We couldn't believe it. It was just amazing. We knew nothing about the breed, but very slow maturing in every way. You know, as I say, a finished dog in its full glory, to me, is 3.5 to 4 years of age.
I used to have bitches that were pretty mature by 2.5, but males not until they're nearly 4, almost 4. But that has changed with different bloodlines that I introduced, and I mean it's hard to tell. It really does depend on and again, as Denise says, on the environmental factors.
I mean, I train with golden retrievers, and I'll tell you, they just get so big so fast. You know, all of a sudden you've got...
Diet has a lot to do with that, you know, as well. Diet.
Yeah.
I don't like dogs having growth spurts and then stopping, and growth spurts and stopping. I like to see an even growth, and then it's more predictable if you can do that.
Can we have the next dog out?
First thing I see on this dog before I even go around is its balance. I haven't talked about height because there wasn't anything to say against essentially the other thing I've looked at being what I would expect to see. Do you want to say anything about this before?
I do, but I'd rather you went over it first, and then you may come to what I'm going to say, what I want to say. But
as I said, I'm not here to pick faults. I'm here to assess the dog. But you need to know what the faults are. I mean, how else are you going to learn? Once again, the heads are beautiful on these 3 so far. This is a nice deep muscle. How old?
4 years.
she's going on 4.
Once again, you can see where I put my hands as to what I'm finding. You should be able to just put the palm of your hand through there comfortably.
Are you checking the width of the withers?
Width of the withers and the loin.
Between,
Here.
yeah.
It shouldn't need to, because you can feel how high it is and you can feel the angle. It should be just as you find it there. That's just experience, though. I mean, I would note it if it wasn't there. Okay, I'll give up, Alison. You tell me.
Well, what I think when you look at her, you register that she's long for her length of leg.
That's what I would have said, a tad short.
Yeah. But I wanted to point out that this is one of the few bitches, tollers I know, with a really nice, quite elegant neck. So here is the top of her withers here. And that if you go back here, and this is the end of her rib, what she has is a long neck and a long rib cage. She's still, I would like more length in the leg, and I certainly would like tighter elbows.
I was about to
But
say, I would like to come up
the
around.
eye can mislead you there. It's not, I mean, she is a bit long, but she's really not that long because the length is, the rib cage goes all the way back to here.
I wouldn't say she's long so much as she's slightly short, and that.
She's short, and I mean, I would like another, God knows I would like another inch on her legs, but I'm not going to get it.
Shoulder to upper arm to length of leg, should they be the same?
Shoulder to upper arm.
The length of leg.
Tad more on the
Tad
length of
more
leg.
on the leg?
Yeah. But you should have it should be a question of balance once again. See, from here to here and from there to there, it doesn't match.
Right.
Right.
So if you had a slightly longer scapula, then the bitch would have been lifted up a bit anyway. And that would have given you about this much.